Hey everybody, welcome back. My name is Anna. I am a writer and an aspiring author, and this is where I talk about all of that. This is not a writing vlog. This is actually a discussion about Project DW. Today I kind of want to go through Project DW, where it started, why I stopped, how far I got, the process behind it all, and then get into the where I am now and where it's going. So Project DW is another one of those. I was doing NaNoWriMo, and at a specific part of the story that I was working on for Nano, I hit the stopping point. I was like, this is not very fun to me anymore. I don't know where I'm going or what I'm doing. And I stopped. And I binge watched Vampire Diaries that month. It was intense. I'm pretty sure I had got almost through the entire 7 seasons that they have. And it was great. I loved it. I actually really enjoyed the series. It was very flawed in a lot of ways, but I enjoyed it overall. There were a lot of things going on in my life at the time. I needed something. Project Reese was not working. I can do a throwback to that one too at some point, but Project Reese wasn't working. And I decided, there was a concept in Vampire Diaries, this idea of this eternal love, fated love, that kind of thing that 2 of the characters are engaged in, and it goes back millennia, kind of toxic and a little bit weird at times. I wanted to explore that idea. I also, if you've been here since the literal very beginning of this channel, I have a story called The Midlands. It is also set in the world that I've created, the world that Project DW is also set. The idea behind it started out as I wanted a small town sleepy romance set on the seaside with lots of rain showers and just very moody, very whimsically vibe. That's what I wanted. It was supposed to be comforting and sweet, and then it bloomed into this gigantic, vast world that I had zero control over. I had no idea how to rein it in. Through all of this over the years, I got back to this point. This was about 3 years ago, so 2022, the very end of it, the end of Vampire Diaries, and I was like, you know what? That sucked. I can do that so much better. This idea just started forming in my head. I started jotting it down onto my notes app, I think is the first place that I had it actually. And I started writing it down, and it got pretty in-depth. And the premise essentially is that the main character goes to a mythical witch in order to protect her lover, is instead cursed to follow him for the rest of eternity, watching him die over and over and over again with no way to save him. She gets a small amount of time with him each iteration of his life, and that's it. She meets him. Within a week, he dies. And she has to break the curse, essentially, is what it amounts to. She's got to figure out how to break this curse. Through the story, she learns lots of lessons, as they do, and it was delightful. I was having a blast with it, honestly. It was so much fun. I wanted to go back to the very seaside romance. This story also started to go a little bit out of control, and I didn't like it. I had this very basic idea that I wanted it to be about the story of this guy and girl and how she basically overcomes whatever issues she's got in order to break the curse and save him. And it started morphing and changing, and the witch character became so much more a part of the story, and I didn't want that, and I was afraid of it, and it was frustrating. I had written quite a bit of it. I wrote about 15,000 words, I think. I was mostly pantsing the story. I knew where I wanted it to end, but I didn't have any clear idea of how I wanted to get there, other than like those basic, this is the premise and this is what should happen, but nothing concrete. And that is sort of where I end up tripping myself up. I did stop writing it for a couple of weeks and came to terms with the fact that stories change. It is part of the process, and just because it's changing from the original idea doesn't make it any worse. Oftentimes it actually adds a lot more depth to the story. And someday I will write this very small, short, sleepy town romance eventually, but today's not that day. It's in no way like an epic fantasy or anything like that, but it's definitely not that original idea. Over the next couple of weeks, I did write some more, but then I got pregnant, and I cannot seem to write while I'm pregnant. Like, the ideas just stop. Like, all of my mental energy suddenly goes into this whole breeding thing that I've got going on, and I have no ability to actually move forward. I did piddle around with it for a little while I was pregnant, but then I had the baby, and obviously that takes like 9 months. And I think just a couple months after I gave birth to him, I really felt the need to get back into something. I ended up reworking a lot of stuff, and there are certain things that happened when I gave birth to my son that play into what happens in this story, and it added a lot more depth to the character in this story, and I'm really glad. I'm really proud of a lot of the character development that she goes through because of some of these events. So I picked it up and I started writing it again because I realized, wow, this correlates really well. So I got back into it pretty heavily and I revamped the entire thing. I wrote in a lot more of these substantial plot lines, and at this point, instead of it just being like a standard, you know, this curse happens to them and they have to break it, it ended up being that she actually has her own magical ability, and the story continued to morph. It continued to change and get better, but I hit another wall. I actually did a 24-hour write-a-thon, and I think I burnt myself out a little bit on that part of the project. But it also kind of exemplifies what I was talking about. I tend to like bulk brainstorm and then bulk write for a little bit, and I kind of go back and forth. Now I need to stop the like bulk brainstorming portion of it and just get into the writing and finish the story. I finished the 24-hour write-a-thon, and I actually got up to, that's where I hit the 50,000 word mark, and I was like, okay, I'm done. I need to put this away for a little while. I packed it up, put it away, and it has been almost 2 years since I picked it up. In that time, I have not stopped writing. I have worked on Project Vampire. I've got a whole thing dedicated to that as well. I can put that up there. In the last 6 months or so, I have really started to feel that drive again. That, I mean, the desire has always been there, but the idea that I could do it, it has been non-existent, and it's been really frustrating because like there's part of me that's like, no, you can do this. This is within your scope of capabilities. Like, you can do anything. But then there's that sense of like, what if, that keeps holding me back, and it's ridiculous. And I get that, but like, it's still there. It's still reality. It's something that I need to work through, and I have. Hint, hint for what's coming in a little bit. However, it got me thinking about what I wanted to do, what I wanted to focus on, how I wanted to present my information, my stories, and everything. And I decided that I wanted to be somebody who finishes things. I've never been great at that. You can ask my husband. I will often pick up like sweeping and then jump over to another task and forget that I was sweeping, or like a million other things. I could give you 100 different examples and they would all be accurate. Like, it's the same with stories. I will pick up a book and I will enjoy the brainstorming, the writing, the like dopamine fix of the story, and then I will suddenly not want to do that anymore, or I will get this little shiny idea over here that makes me want to write that for a little bit, and I will, because I'm me. Point being, I don't want to be that person that just jumps from piece to piece to piece. I want to be somebody who finishes something. So at the beginning of this year, I had to really think hard about who I wanted to be and who I wanted to present myself as. That's it. Somebody who finishes things, somebody who writes great stories, somebody who brings people in and tells stories that change people. Like, that's my desire. I would like to leave something in the world that is different because of me. However, it brought me to the point that I'm at right now. A couple of months ago, I picked up Project EW again, and I decided that that is the story that I wanted to complete this year. It's one of the oldest that I have, but it's also, I have a bunch of them before, but a lot of them are full-on series. A lot of them are really complicated. A lot of them aren't nearly as captivating to me as this one. And so I picked this because this is one of those stories that I feel incredibly passionate about. So I decided that I wanted to finish it this year, and I'm going to. Over the years, it has been kind of mulling in my head. I've been formulating different ways that the story could be told, different ways that the story could be deeper, and different plot points that could go into the story that it doesn't have now. And what I ended up doing, what I thought would be best, instead of reading through everything that I had first, I decided to write out a synopsis. A synopsis, a timeline of information, as well as read the anatomy of genre, the love, myth, and fantasy genres, because those are really the core concepts in the story. And so I read through those, and through those I developed a deeper plot line. I was able to figure out where specific things should go in terms of information weaving. And then after that, I took all of the scenes that I have and I put them each into their own individual Scrivener file, not whole file, but like the little tabs and chapters and stuff like that. I did that, and I have been able to move them around where they need to be in terms of where they fit in the plot line and the information and everything. And this is a very complicated plot. I really think it's probably a very stupid idea for me to have picked this one to finish first, when there's so much going on in this story. I may execute this horribly, but I'm gonna do it anyway. And if I do it horribly, I'm gonna revise it someday in the future. But right now, I just want to get it down. That's what I've been doing up until this point. I finally read back through all of the scenes and put them in the order that they go in, and I think it's mostly great. And then after that, I took the scenes that I have thought up over the last couple of years. I've typed out like brief synopses of them and placed them where I think that they should go. I actually have them also in their own like notes section of one specific file. And in the last couple of weeks, I have been drafting it. And at this point, I can say that I am in full-on drafting mode, and I'm really excited about that because it means that I am actually, up until this point, I feel like I've been kind of on slow-mo. I haven't made great progress in this story, but I'm still making progress. However, right now I am going to start drafting in earnest. I have about a 1.5 week break between my last class and my next class. And because of the nature of my work, I have several hours during the day wherein I can type a lot. And I think I mostly have what I need to do figured out. And so that's what I'm going to be doing over the next couple of weeks, is I'm going to be typing. So at this point in the process, what I'm doing is I'm actually filling out all of the rest of the bits of information that the story needs. In those 50,000 original words, it is very deeply incomplete. There are so many things that it's missing. There are some times where I would pick a scene, write it out, and then jump to another one, and there's no bridge, there's no transition, no connectors. And so that is not something I'm focusing on right now. Right now I'm focusing on getting full-on scenes out. If there are like little pieces in between, or like in between sections of a scene, I might go back and like actually fill that part out so that I've got a cohesive scene. But the spaces in between chapters, in between specific scenes in a chapter, that's gonna wait. Right now, I'm just getting the bulk of the information out. And at the end of this, I should have, start to finish, a relatively cohesive story. Somebody would be able to read it. It's not gonna be great, but somebody would be able to read it and be like, huh, I see what you're trying to do. At that point, I won't let anybody read it. I might let my husband read it because he's actually really, really good at like story structure, just naturally, or like coming up with different scenes that would add depth. So I might have him read it, but other than that, the next step is after this, after bulking up and officially finishing the first, I'm calling it the second draft, but it's really like an end of the first draft part B, essentially. The next draft that I do, I will be going back through and rearranging the beginning, changing information so that it matches the end of the book and the actual vision that I have for it now, because it has changed, like I said. I'm really hoping that at the end of that draft, it'll actually be readable by a semi-larger audience that would be interested in this kind of story. Because at that point, I'd really like some feedback. That's where I'm at with Project EW. I'm very enthusiastic about it. This is actually part of my publishing plan. At this moment, like I said before, I'm a wishy-washy person. Don't know if I'm going to be self-publishing or trad publishing. At the moment, however, the plan is to self-publish, and I have several reasons behind that, and I can go into another video. However, the main part is that it has the chance, not the definite, not for sure, but it has the chance to make my family a lot more money a lot faster than trad pub. Like I said, I know that that's like a really big chance that I'm taking right there, but I do think that that is the right way to go for me right now. It does sound like things are devolving down there, so I am going to cut this off now. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you stick around for more. I will see you all in the next video, and until next time, keep writing forward.